It all started with a conversation that, at the time, seemed like any other. We were sitting together at the dinner table, sharing one of those quiet evenings that had become such a comfortable routine in our lives. The food was warm, the air was light, and the conversation flowed easily between us. My partner always had a curious mind, often wandering into thoughtful or playful ideas that we'd casually discuss and then let go of, but this night felt different from the start. The playful glint in their eyes hinted at something, but I didn't expect the direction the conversation would take. It wasn't unusual for us to banter and toss around ideas just for fun, but this time there was something more, something I couldn't quite place but sensed immediately. They leaned in slightly, their voice lowering, and said softly, "I want to explore something with you, something different." At first, I laughed it off, assuming it was another one of those light-hearted ideas we'd toss around for a moment before moving on to something else. But the way they looked at me, with such sincerity, made me stop. There was a seriousness, a quiet desire in their tone that caught me off guard. I felt my heart skip a beat as I tried to process the words, unsure of where they were leading. It wasn't a request or a demand, just a suggestion, a conversation starter. "I want us to try something new," they said, their voice steady and calm, though I could see the curiosity and hope flicker in their eyes. "Something that might surprise us both." I stared at them for a moment, caught between surprise and curiosity. This wasn't like the other ideas we'd joked about in the past. There was something different in the air between us, a tension, an unspoken understanding that this was about more than just an idle thought. I didn't know what to say at first, so I just smiled, not dismissing the idea, but not embracing it either. I needed time to think, to understand what this might mean for us. As the conversation continued, my partner gently explained what they had in mind, laying out the idea with thoughtfulness and care. They spoke about trust, about the strength of our relationship, and about how this wasn't about filling any gaps or fixing something that was broken. It was about curiosity, about exploring something new together as partners, as equals. I could hear the tenderness in their voice as they reassured me that nothing about us would change unless we both wanted it to. And more importantly, that we would only move forward if we were both completely comfortable. I sat quietly, listening, feeling a mixture of emotions bubbling up inside me: surprise, curiosity, maybe even a little fear. The idea itself was something I had never considered before, something that seemed so outside the realm of our everyday lives. But at the same time, there was a part of me that couldn't deny a growing interest, a quiet excitement that tugged at the edges of my thoughts. Days passed, and though the conversation ended that evening, the idea lingered in my mind. I found myself returning to it, turning it over and over in my head, wondering what it might feel like. Could we really do this? Could I let go of the familiar, the safe, and step into something entirely new? And more than that, did I want to? Each time I thought about it, the answers became a little clearer. My partner never pushed, never asked again, but I could sense that they were waiting, giving me the space I needed to process everything at my own pace. There was no rush, no urgency, just a quiet patience that I appreciated more than I could express. And slowly, almost without realizing it, I began to see the idea in a new light. I found myself imagining what it might feel like to embrace something different, something outside the boundaries of what I had always known. Could I really be that open, that vulnerable? Could we, together, explore something that felt so new and unfamiliar? I started to daydream, my thoughts wandering to scenarios that felt both thrilling and a little intimidating. Each time I let my mind drift into these ideas, I felt a small flutter of excitement, something deep within me that I hadn't realized was there. It wasn't about desire alone, it was about the possibility of experiencing something with my partner that could bring us closer, something that might deepen the bond we already had. I couldn't deny the curiosity that was building inside me. And though I never voiced it out loud at first, I knew that I was beginning to consider the idea more seriously. One evening, as we lay together in bed, I turned to my partner, my heart beating just a little faster than usual. I had been thinking about the idea for days now, letting it settle into my mind, and I knew that I was ready to talk about it again. I gave them a soft smile, the kind that let them know I was open to what we had discussed, even if I wasn't entirely sure of how to approach it. "Okay," I said quietly, my voice steady but filled with anticipation. Their eyes widened slightly, surprised but excited. For a moment, there was a flicker of disbelief, like they hadn't been sure if I would ever come around to the idea. But that uncertainty was quickly replaced by a look of pure, unfiltered excitement. They smiled, their hand reaching out to gently take mine. "Are you sure?" they asked, their voice soft and full of care. I nodded, feeling my heart pound in my chest. "Yes, let's talk about it." Over the next few nights, we spent hours talking about everything, about what we both wanted, about our boundaries, about how we would communicate openly every step of the way. It was important to us that this be something we experienced together, something built on trust and respect. We weren't just exploring an idea, we were reaffirming the strength of our relationship, making sure that this would bring us closer, not create distance. My partner explained the logistics, mentioning how they had already spoken with 2 people who were intrigued by the idea. They described them as kind and respectful, the type of people who would understand the importance of boundaries and trust. Hearing the excitement in their voice reassured me, and strangely enough, it made me feel even more certain of my decision. This wasn't just an abstract idea anymore. It was something real, something we were both stepping into with eyes wide open. As the night we had planned drew closer, I felt a mix of emotions. I was excited, of course, but also nervous. I hadn't experienced anything like this before, and the unknown was always a little daunting. But at the same time, there was a calmness within me that I hadn't expected. I trusted my partner completely, and I knew that whatever happened, we were in this together. The evening arrived, and I found myself standing in front of the mirror, getting ready. Every brush of my hand against my skin felt more sensitive than usual, and I could feel the anticipation building inside me. My heart raced as I thought about what was to come, but I also felt a sense of peace. I trusted my partner, and I knew that this was something we both wanted to explore, not just for the sake of the experience, but because it was something that would bring us closer. The room was softly lit when the guests arrived, and I remember feeling a strange mix of nerves and excitement. They were kind and confident, greeting us with warmth and grace. Their presence put me at ease almost immediately. As we settled into the evening, we spent time talking, laughing, sharing stories, and slowly easing into the experience. There was no rush, no pressure, just an unspoken understanding that we would all move forward at our own pace, allowing the evening to unfold naturally. At first, the nerves I had felt earlier in the day lingered, but as the evening progressed, they began to fade. The initial nervousness gave way to a quiet excitement that hummed just beneath the surface. There was something liberating about the whole experience, about allowing ourselves to explore something new, something that felt both thrilling and intimate. The atmosphere in the room shifted slowly, and as the conversations turned more playful, I found myself feeling more comfortable than I had expected. I could see the excitement in my partner's eyes, and that excitement only made me feel more certain of the path we were on. We were sharing something deeply personal, something that would only strengthen the connection between us. When the first kiss happened, it was slow and tentative, almost like testing the waters. One of the guests leaned in, her lips brushing softly against my partner's, and I held my breath, watching closely. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I took in the sight, my emotions swirling in a mix of curiosity and excitement. It wasn't jealousy that I felt, it was something deeper, something more profound. It was a sense of liberation, of giving my partner the freedom to explore this side of themselves, and in turn, discovering something new about myself. The night continued, the tension in the room building slowly but steadily. Every touch, every glance was filled with intention, and I found myself drawn into the experience in a way I hadn't expected. I watched as the two guests and my partner moved together in a slow, sensual rhythm, their bodies and movements graceful and deliberate. At one point, one of the women turned to me, her eyes locking with mine. She smiled softly, holding out her hand as if inviting me to join them. Without hesitation, I took it, letting her guide me closer. Her lips found mine, soft and gentle, and I felt myself melt into the kiss, letting go of the last bit of nervousness I had been holding on to. The rest of the night unfolded in a blur of sensations and emotions. We moved together, exploring, connecting, savoring each moment. The physical intimacy was undeniable, but it was the emotional connection that surprised me the most. I felt a deep sense of unity, of being completely in sync with my partner in a way that was both exciting and comforting. As the night reached its peak, I found myself overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. The tension that had been building all evening finally broke, and I gasped, feeling my body tremble with release. It was beautiful, sensual, and freeing, an experience that I had never imagined but was grateful to have shared. Afterward, we lay together, our bodies still tangled, our breaths coming in soft, even waves. My partner held me close, their arms wrapped around me in a protective, loving embrace. The two guests lay beside us, their presence still warm and comforting, a reminder of the intimacy we had all shared. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment wash over me. This was something I never thought I would experience, something I never thought I could do. And yet, here I was, lying in the afterglow of the experience, feeling more connected to my partner than ever before. It wasn't just about the physical act. It was about the journey we had taken together, the way we had explored something new and deepened the bond we already had. As I drifted off to sleep, my partner's arms still wrapped around me, I knew that we had opened a new chapter in our lives. It was a chapter filled with possibility, with adventure, and most of all, with love. In the days that followed, we continued to reflect on the experience. It had been more than just an exploration of desire. It had been a celebration of trust and connection. We knew that we had strengthened our relationship, deepened our bond, and created something beautiful together. We had ventured into the unknown hand in hand, and what we found was a new depth to our relationship, one built on trust, love, and mutual respect. The experience had brought us closer, and as we moved forward, we knew that our relationship would continue to grow, filled with the possibilities that come from embracing love, trust, and shared exploration. This was just the beginning.